Hello, everybody. Gary Haynes here, Next Step Partners. This is a continuation of our podcast series on a variety of subjects that are of interest to buyers, sellers, uh, with an emphasis on those who are approaching retirement and those who are retired. It is my pleasure to have with me Mike Marinucci. Um, he is a trusted loan officer that I use and very knowledgeable in many aspects, if not all aspects of the loan process. Mike, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and the company? Thanks for
Sure. Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. Great to be here on the podcast series. Always happy to help and shed some light on the mortgage industry for buyers and first time buyers and things like that. A little bit myself. I've been a mortgage loan officer since 2016, so almost going on 10 years now.
Wow.
Yeah. So I can't. Time flies, right?
Hey,
Yeah.
I got to interrupt you. I figured out the other day I hit 25 years this year.
Very nice.
Never thought it'd happen. Please, I
Right. Year one, you don't think you'll be at 25, and all of a sudden, the next thing you know, you're right there.
keep that in mind.
Almost 10 years now in the business, and we've seen a lot through the industry. A little bit more about Main Street Home Loans. We're a local correspondent lender. My office is right here in Severna Park, but we're pretty much licensed. Throughout the whole East Coast. Various states. We could do loans all over the place. So yeah, just think about it. Did we need a loan? We're more than happy to help. We have something for everybody.
So today we're going to talk about cryptocurrency, and if you have a lot of your investments in that vehicle, how does that affect your ability to get a loan? And I asked Mike if he could make some comments on that, um, so that we can understand it better. A lot of people are heavily invested there, I know. So let's start with that. Sure, it's your up to you.
Yeah, definitely. So, crypto has definitely gained a lot of popularity in the last, 5 to 10 years, especially some of the younger, generations. But yeah, so before it was just kind of a dark area, gray area. It wasn't really looked at in the mortgage underwriting process or anything like that. But now with its rapid rise, you are starting to see mortgage lenders take those, cryptocurrencies into consideration. One of the big things is it really is asset verification. So,
Right.
yeah. So, essentially, the borrower that has the crypto assets, that's a great way for them to demonstrate, you know, uh, stability, financial stability, but also liquidity as well too. So we could take that into consideration on the mortgage underwriting application. Now, one thing that you do have to be cognizant of on these cryptocurrencies is that you can't use it necessarily for your physical assets, for your down payment or closing costs. It does have to be converted to fiat currency. So typically I
Know what fiat currency is.
so fiat currencies is going to be US dollars, right? Or wherever you live. Obviously, we're doing loans here in the United States, so going to be US dollars. So you would have to essentially sell your cryptocurrency and transfer it into your USD. So, but we can use that. We just have to track, source, and trace any types of transfer. So your lender might ask you for your bank statements from your cryptocurrency account, and also your fiat currency account, your Bank of America or Wells Fargo, whoever you have your checking and savings with to show that. But once you do that, then yes, those funds can be used for down payment and closing costs.
I get a little slow sometimes, so I'm gonna ask this. Oh, sure. I thought I heard you say that they would have to basically sell their cryptocurrency
Mhm.
and put it into U.S. dollars. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, I mean, that would really be the only way they could, transfer it to USD, unless there's another way where, maybe they can leverage it with their broker account or something like that. I can't really speak on that behalf because crypto brokerage accounts might allow for X, Y, and Z, but high level of it, we would want to see that cryptocurrency converted into fiat currency.
You were talking about the brokers, and
Mhm.
they do things differently sometimes. One of the things I know they will do, not necessarily with cryptocurrency, but they will allow you to take a loan on your investment balance. I don't know how that applies to cryptocurrency. Do you have any idea? And would they be able to use those funds then?
Well, it can be hard. I mean, Yes and no per se. I mean, it really kind of would depend on the individual lender. With my company, I don't think we're quite there yet. And I don't think the agencies are there yet, like Fannie and Freddie, FHA, and, VA, USDA, so all of your big, loan entities. So, that's going to be 90% of people that are applying for a loan. It's going to go through one of those agencies. So it's not quite there yet that I'm aware of. But I mean, you might have a local bank, a small credit union, maybe something like that, that might entertain that idea because they might not be selling those loans to Fannie or Freddie or FHA or V. They might be holding it, portfolioing those loans, and they could do things a little bit differently. So it's kind of hard for me to say exactly, but as we get closer to the future, you might start to see that become more and more realistic. And then, of course, it all depends on your cryptocurrency broker as well, too, if they allow you to, leverage those currencies into a loan or something like that.
Okay, yeah, I forgot about that perspective. What I'm getting out of this is, that if you're, investing in cryptocurrency, you need to do some careful planning if you also plan to upgrade or buy a new house. It may not be that you need to divest yourself of all your cryptocurrency. It could be a matter of the plan, talking to Mike, finding out how much, you wanna put down. Um, does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, let's say you have, $500,000 of, various cryptocurrencies, but maybe you only need 100,000 of that for down payment. You wouldn't have to liquidate your whole position, just enough to cover what you need. And, maybe you have X amount in a checking savings account or retirement account or other, liquid accounts you might want to pull from. And then that way you pull a little bit less from your crypto because, as we all know, it can be a very volatile asset. So, you could be selling it on a day when it's down 20 or 30% versus it being up 20 or
Right.
30%. So we don't want to see you take too many losses. We'd rather see you take the gains there.
Absolutely. You also want them to buy a house.
That's true too.
Yeah, right. What other thoughts?
So asset verification, also it can show, in some instances, potentially a source of income as well too. Something like that you do, would have to show a reliable, source of income, typically over 2 years. So somebody that maybe is a day trader of cryptocurrencies, if that's their full-time or part-time job, and we can show a track record of that, a history of that, and they're consistently had earnings and making profits. And, of course, they report the income on their tax returns and things like that. That could also be something that could be advantageous in the mortgage underwriting process. We could use those trades, essentially as income. We can use that to help underwrite their loan. Maybe that is their full-time gig. We can look to use that income. If it's a part-time gig, we could potentially use that as well too to supplement their income. And that might take somebody from that, maybe they can only afford a $500,000 house or a $300,000 house, and then it might take them to the next level. So it can be used as income as well too. A little bit trickier, a little bit more of a history there to document it versus just converting it to fiat currency for a down payment, but it's not outside of the realm of possibility.
The income, I assume, would have to be in US currency.
Yes, correct. 'Cause that's what because typically what those brokerages are going to do is they're going to issue a 1099, and that's all going to be based in USD. Typically, they're not going to issue it in that I'm aware of in a Bitcoin or Ethereum or something like that.
There's the whole subject to
I'm not the expert on it, but I know a bit. But yes, it can get very interesting for sure.
what I'm getting here is that there's nothing inherently negative about investing in cryptocurrency as you go into the thought of buying a loan. However, it is a matter of knowing that somewhere along the way, you might have to convert those, investments into US-based funds of some sort. Correct. Yes, Mike could go into more detail on that.
Yeah, like I said, we wouldn't want you to necessarily liquidate your whole position if you don't need to, but if a smaller portion or something along those lines. And one of the other things I'd like to mention that you might want to be careful of and take into consideration with this is that the fees on those platforms as well too. On a lot of the brokerage trading platforms for your cryptocurrencies, they're charging you fees when you're buying and selling those assets, and those can kind of start to add up over time. So the less transactions you can do, potentially, the better, save you a little bit more funds there. So that is something to take in consideration as well, too.
Great. That's really good knowledge for us. Anything else on that subject?
I think those are the main bullet points. That kind of sums it up. I mean, really, it's going to depend on every individual, so it's going to be a little bit different. So the next step would really just be reaching out to you, Gary, to get the process started, and then reaching out to me on the flip side for the financing, and put it our heads together, make a game plan that makes the most sense for that individual.
So that was great, Mike, really helpful. Before we, shut down, anything else you wanna tell us about Main Street, new programs, et cetera?
Um, yeah, I mean, like I said, we have a little bit for everybody. Whether you're a first time home buyer or a senior looking to downsize, you want to use some cryptocurrency assets, or maybe you never even heard of cryptocurrency. We have something for everybody. So, what I would say is the next step is just reach out to us. We're available, and we can have that conversation and get that process started and see what programs and what avenues make the most sense for your next home purchase.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Before we leave, I wanna tell you about a new program that Next Step Partners has, for buyers, especially specifically the buyers who are approaching retirement and those who are in retirement. We just put it together. It's hot off the press, if you will. It's called the Senior Real Estate Transition Advantage. And it's traditional real estate, but it's just laden with benefits. Give you some idea, up to 20% of my commission will be credited towards closing,
Nice.
um, to help you make that transition. There will be help with decluttering, staging, and preparing the home for sale. Uh, we have a network of trusted, professionals, contractors, plumbers who, some of them will take payment at settlement, which can be very attractive and very helpful to the process. I provide a home warranty for up to $700 to help with the sale of the home, and it really does make a difference to buyers. It really does. I pay for that. And the best professional photographer in town. And I literally mean that. They can make your house shine. Lastly, uh, if you'd like somebody to hold your hand through this process, it may have been a long time since you've done it. I'm there for that, and we'll be with you. That's it. We'll see you next time.